In a world not so different from ours, and in the forest where sunlight shimmers through the leaflets of the great canopy like a golden trickling shower, a boy stood. On the boy's shoulders perched an explosion of red, green, yellow, and blue, with black beady eyes that shone with the peril of the rising sun, and a recurved beak that still showed remnants of the bird's last meal. The boy was studying the map in front of him, laid out on a flat piece of rock that shone under the afternoon sun. The parrot was studying its owner's little hands, tracing back and forward the many lines strewn across. It was a huge map, with coordinates to all the smallest of hamlets to the largest of villages, and to the largest of them yet, the very place that they are headed. The old village was but a dot painted on the canvas. The mapmaker had warned the boy specifically not to visit the great city. It was, in his words, forbidden. But forbidden never stopped Achilles. It wasn't going to stop him this time either. "We're heading the right way," said Achilles. "We're heading the right way," the parrot repeated. "Yes, we are." The emptiness of the forest echoed with their voice. It wasn't the first time the boy had felt a nagging feeling tugging at him. Sometimes, in the dark of the darkest nights, or in the calm of the calmest days, some voices would spring up. Was it correct that he did this? Was it all worth it to ditch everything he had known, and everyone, for this? He tried to shrug the feeling off, yet it rebounded back to him like a persistent puppy. "Do you ever miss people?" murmured the boy to the bird as they waddled across a small stream. "Do you ever miss people?" the parrot said. The boy pondered his question for a bit. "No, not really, just a bit though. Missed everything a bit. The food, the drinks, the school, the parties even. Not like any of them really supported me or really just understood me, but whatever." "No, not really," the parrot said. The boy laughed a bit and looked at the small bird on his shoulder. "You couldn't remember what I said, could you?" "You couldn't remember what I said," the parrot gleefully said. And so, through the winding trees, the duo walked, past the inviting ponds and lakes, up the numerous hills, and down the stony slopes. Soon, a giant veil was already descending upon the forest. The sunlight was tinged orange, and the sky, burning, seething above the world, was silent. No kites, no airplanes, no balloons. Soon enough, the world would turn dark, into the hue of black darker than any paint the boy has ever laid hands on, that covered every inch of this nightly world. They had covered some ground this afternoon, much more than the boy had expected at least, and his legs were sore and mouth dry from all the walking. The duo set camp near a sturdy, magnificent oak tree in a small clearing. A can of beans later, the boy laid down on the crunchy leaves and slowly closed his eyelids. "It will all be fine once we get to the city," Achilles muttered in a barely audible voice. "It will all be fine," the parrot repeated. "It will all be fine," echoed the forest. The boy smiled at the reassurance. In fact, that was all he got after making this brilliant decision. Objection was dead. Who was there to object to him? He was correct. He had always been correct, and would continue to be correct. No more being called a delusional zealot, with a passion for disagreeing. No more warnings from village men who were too afraid to come pursue greatness. The signal was clear here without the clutter, thought Achilles, and that's always good for getting a task done. With that thought, Achilles drifted slowly into his dreams. The next day, they continued on their path. The forest was misty in the morning. Giant oak tree branches flew in and out of sight as they traveled past the pathless forest. This was the twilight zone of the forest, a place where adventurers only venture in the best of conditions. Yet none of them had the mission he did, thought Achilles. The great, magnificent city contained a great treasure, a diamond so large that a palm could fit inside, and shone so brilliantly that it shone in the dark. The stone had been named Fame by its discoverers, and anyone who touched the unearthed pearl would have unchanging good luck, as the fable claimed. Into the afternoon, the forest had receded, and a grassy plain lay before them. On the horizon, towers and spires and skyscrapers higher than the sky itself loomed. Behind the buildings were spiraling roads in the sky and rockets with lights and the most insane starships sure to hide the most luxurious delights. Achilles was ecstatic. He shouted and pointed at the towers. "Parrot, do you see that? All of that? That is greatness. That is where we're destined. Fuck our old town of grief and sadness and normal roads and cars. We should have made this trip tenfold sooner." "It would be a shame if I interrupted, wouldn't it?" echoed a voice. Achilles spun around, his heel catching the side of a blade of grass. Every strand of hair awoke and every sliver of wokeness conjured. An old man was standing behind him. "Sorry," the old man said, bowing his head slightly. "Sorry for the intrusion. but I'm afraid you'll never make it to the city you dream of. And who are you to tell me that when it's right in front of my eyes, said the young boy indignantly. Right in front of my eyes, screeched the parrot. Because I've been there, a place of treacheries and danger, a place where nothing is quite as it seems. You've still got a way to go. It's not too late to turn back. Confused, Achilles looks at the marvelous buildings once more and says again, They're right there. I see no treacheries and danger in that wonderland. That is not a wonderland. Please stop before you go too far. Stop before your mind gets infested from the rot in that god-forsaken illusion, or it might be too late. Wonderland, said the parrot again. Angered, Achilles steps forward. Yes, Wonderland. It has and always been my dream to get there one day. And if you'll excuse me, I have to get there before it falls dark again. With that, the young boy and his parrot turned the heel and moved swiftly down the grassy plains. Yet when they turned their heads a moment later, the old man was nowhere to be seen, as if he had simply vanished into the cold, refreshing air of the savannah. There was nobody to greet them at the gate of the city. The sky had turned dark by then. Before them stood the city gates, two pillars interlaced with neon stripes, and a flat top which engraved the words City of Stars. By urban legend, it was the largest city of the post-war era, and the only city which survived all the bombings and raids by the intruders. The scent of flowers flooded the nostrils of Achilles. The road forward was paved as flat as a ruler with concrete. The towers reached for the skies on either side. A miracle it was, a paradise it was, and there was no entry fee. Achilles stepped past the gate, looking towards the first skyscraper, and saw a familiar roof, the roof of a cottage. It was made of wood, not polymer or concrete. After that, he saw another, and yet another. The same brown rooftops. Achilles' eyes spun, his brain confused. He is seeing a village, just like the one he traveled from. He was seeing a metropolis. The path beneath them had turned from concrete to dirt. The smell of flowers faded to the familiar scent of cow dung. The parrot flapped its wings in disgust. Achilles turned and ran for the gate. He hit it like a wall and rebounded in pain. The other side of the world was just as it was. He tried another way out, over the walls perhaps, but he was again flung back like a despised garbage. Achilles got up again. The old man had appeared again. I warned you. Where is the city? It's nowhere. There is no paradise on earth. That belongs to heaven. But the stone? The old man sighed. So many have come and gone for that goddamn stone, and so many times have I warned them that it only brings destruction. The curse is held in the stone, of disdainful arrogance, of an undying craving for the spotlight, of a pitiful vulnerability to flattery. The people here, they are too far gone, and so this town has become their prison. But the stone, it casts a great illusion, of happiness, of luxury, of fortune, of everything you want. It shows you whatever you crave. That is where the buildings come from. He paused for a bit, and then said with a sigh, I will send you back, wherever you may come, for the stone has not yet come into contact with you, but please do not ever visit again. The boy stood there in silence for a moment, and finally asked, Who then are you? I am the keeper of the stone. Many years ago, when the curse was loose upon the great kingdom of Byzantine, the king assigned me as the person who would keep the stone's curse at bay. I have gained immortality from that fateful task, but also a deathly duty. Any more questions? Achilles shook his head. The old man waved his hands, and the world started to spin again. His eyes went dark. Then Achilles was staring at the familiar side of his bed. The familiar rocking chair on the outer lawn still rocked in the wind. He reached down to feel his body. It was still there. The sunlight was once more beaming through the windows and onto his face. Everything was as if nothing happened. Everything except his parrot, which still quacked Wonderland, and the deep desire to keep fame out of sight, out of mind, and out of his life.